Well, the shoes are in, and today I'm going to be doing a first look and review of the King MT 1.5 from Altra. So the King MT is Altra's extreme aggressive mud, rock, gravel trail running shoe that you can buy outside or a step above the Lone Peak when it comes to aggressive design and features. I'm going to go through them with you, go over some of the specs that Altra says and some of my thoughts on it. This shoe is actually named after Kings Peak in Utah, which is the highest peak in that state, keeping with Altra's theme of how they name shoes. So I'm going to break this down a little bit and look at it in terms of a subjective review. This is a first look at it. I haven't worn these very much, and these are going to be my shoes moving forward on the AT section hike I'm going to be doing this summer. So just to cover some features here about the MT 1.5, it does have a 6mm insole. Obviously you have that iconic foot-shaped toe box with a fully cushioned zero-drop platform. The stack height is at 19mm, and the midsole was what Altra's calling their Altra Ego. The outsole is made of a Vibram Mega Grip with 6mm lugs. This is definitely more aggressive lug pattern than what you'll find on the Lone Peak, but something to note for sure. They also kind of extend outward. I don't know how well I can show this, but a little bit outward for that extra security when we're going over rocks and slippery surfaces and stuff like that. The lugs actually extend out past the heel slightly and the forefoot. So the upper is made of a tear-resistant, quick-dry fabric. It almost feels like some sort of like Nike Flyknit that's been like reinforced with some sort of vinyl or something, but it says it's tear resistant, very quick dry. It feels like it is when we're comparing it to the Lone Peak. It's got that kind of similar style mesh, but where the Lone Peak has a little bit more reinforcement or padding on the sides and the bottoms near the stone guard, the King MT is pretty loose and pretty open. Now I kind of took one apart here because I'm hoping, and one of the reasons and purchase decisions I made for this shoe is the breathability. Not that the Lone Peak was hot or anything in my opinion, but it did kind of, it was interesting to me to see a shoe that had a little bit different design that utilized Altra's same features. So inside the shoe, you can't actually remove the stone guard, but you can see the sole can be removed, and you can switch that out. But lots of venting and breathing holes here. This is a size 12 and fits very similar to the Lone Peak in a 12, in case you're wondering. But so far, you've got some reinforcement here, definitely around the upper part here. There's like an elastic connection piece, kind of similar to the Lone Peak, but it doesn't actually have that strap that goes all the way through. But good support, it just isn't the same thing. So maybe this is weaker in the actual fabric itself, but it's definitely reinforced, so it gives me hope. Now, I'm not somebody who uses gaiters at all, but these shoes are a little bit different when it comes to the gator attachment points. Both shoes have a hook and loop that Altra is known for putting on the bottom of the lacing side of your shoe, but the gator trap on the back does have that Velcro. I usually just like cut these off and remove this little hook and loop to attach gators because I don't use them, but it looks like the MTs don't have an extra attachment for a gator loop in the back or one in the heel. It doesn't actually have a heel loop strap on the back of it. So just kind of something to note. I don't use gators. It is missing some extra attachment points here, but I think the idea with this shoe is to be pretty minimalistic as much as possible. I mean, they're here. The gator attachments are here if you have those, but yeah, just something to note if that's something that you use. There's not as much flexibility if you're using something aftermarket instead of what Altra supplies. So as far as fitment goes, the way this feels, at least on my feet, this is totally subjective because everybody's different, but I thought this was pretty unique and almost humorous at first, but this shoe does use what they call a foot lock, which is basically just like a strap that fits around the arch of your foot to increase comfort, but also been just looking at some reviews on these, and I really need to see these on trail, but just an extra level of support. So, you know, kind of like running down a hill and you just slam your foot into some sort of rut and it gets kind of aggressively pushed through. They lowered this strap, I guess, and they moved it forward just to give the arch of your foot a little bit more support when going downhill or uphill. I've noticed that I don't really have any issues with the Lone Peak, but in terms of that, it seems like this just extra protection, and it is reinforced on the inside here. That's going to help a lot when it comes to using horrible hiking and foot pattern maneuvers that I have. I just kind of just run through the woods. So I thought this was pretty cool, that this was an idea that, you know, may work. So this will be in a later video. Obviously, I'll go through a review long-term wise, but something I really wanted to kind of showcase. I thought this was pretty interesting. The other thing too, and I didn't really find anything on their website. I'm going to go through the tread in a minute and the differences, but if I can pull out my dirty Lone Peak here. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but there is a very similar fabric where the heel is, or the ankle is, excuse me, on the inside of the MT, and it looks very similar to the Lone Peak fabric, whatever that padded mesh is. Now, the kind of cool thing was, and I didn't know this until I actually put these on with some Injinjis, because I didn't feel it. There's a special or unique type of fabric here that's almost like Velcro, and it's pointed in a direction kind of like a Velcro strip that you would, you know, hang something up with, but it only becomes resistant when you're pulling up. If you're putting a shoe or a sock on with the shoe on, it kind of slides through and it's very smooth downward. So it's kind of weird. I feel like this is definitely something that isn't really talked about, but I noticed right away, if that drives you nuts or you have low ankle socks, this could be a serious problem though, because this is kind of abrasive. So one thing I learned extremely quickly was, and I mean, I wear darn tough high ankle anyways, but very soft on the inside of the Lone Peak. But not that I have really had a problem with it yet. This is going to be something that may be a selling point or not at all to you. Definitely here for support and keeping stability with the sock. But yeah, it's got a, if you're somebody who has really low cut socks, or, you know, you're going to have any type of skin hit this over and over on trail, this might be a total deal breaker for you. So yeah, like I said, something I didn't see much about, but thought was really interesting. I'm not too worried about it just because of the socks that I wear. I'm actually looking forward to it to see if it works, because I'm, like I said, just kind of running through the woods. I've never really had a really, not that I wear my shoes very tight, but I've always had a loose fitting shoe, especially in the Ultras around the heel area. But going to a different size didn't make a difference, so I'm looking forward to at least how my foot is shaped. I'm looking forward to see if this is doing anything positive for me. So just something to note. So to me, this is a little trivial at this point. I've never tested this shoe on trail yet. I've worn it around the yard. That's about as much time as I have in him. Aesthetically, though, the lugs and the type of tread this has is a little bit different than the, you know, tried and true Lone Peak. Much more concave hooks into these lugs. You can see that pretty. I mean, this shoe's kind of definitely has some miles on it, so don't compare it to that. But at least in terms of the design, the way that these lugs actually have like a flared out kind of sipe through them, it actually gives me some hope that this will be an improvement over the Lone Peak. They do use a different compound for rubber in this one. This one is their, it's Vibram Mega Grip. It's supposed to be a stickier, high-performance compound, etc., etc. But this is supposed to be a stickier rubber. I guess that could be a double-edged sword if it's gonna be, you know, not as long-lasting. So I am really gonna clock the miles on this shoe and see. This is something that I'm kind of curious about. I want to see how this does, but I did want to show aesthetically, it doesn't have the same type of, you know, trail claw grip that the Lone Peak has on the side here. So something to note, this is a really really aggressive kind of angled tread on this shoe compared to the Lone Peak. I thought that was interesting. I was excited to see that it was a little bit different, but as you can tell, pretty aggressive. They also have this Stone Guard fake carbon fiber plastic something on the bottom of the bottom of the sole here. So I'm assuming that's a part of their stone guard. It does say it on the side. It does have this reinforced. It almost feels like plastic, to be honest with you, but we will see. The stone guard that the Lone Peak 4 has is just kind of like a supportive cushioned sole. I know that's not quite what they want me to say, but that's what it seems like it is. So totally unbiased though. The Ultra Ego is on the outside of it is their other type of sole that's kind of a dual nature midsole. They say it's a different type of compound that's responsive and cushiony, but soft to feel to keep the shoe comfortable. It's got a 6mm sole, so or insole. So I'm hoping that pays off, and hoping it's pretty solid. So in closing and my final thoughts, the King MT is kind of in a weird category. It's almost in between the Lone Peak and the Superior in certain ways. I think it's at least in the large. Ultra says they weigh 8.5 ounces, which is 2 ounces lighter than the Lone Peaks. It's definitely not a minimalist shoe. There's some features on here that are kind of excessive, I think, if you're doing just trail hiking, backpacking sort of thing. Nothing crazy. I really was looking at this shoe as a different type of a different option for more comfortable, breathable shoe compared to the Lone Peak. So I think this is definitely, though, a shoe that you need to try on first. There are some kind of features, like I said, that if you like Gators, this has less of a strap. I know, and I'm sure this works with the Ultra Gators, but if you have some non-Ultra Gators that you like to use, this may be, and I'm not sure because I really don't wear them, but this may be a non-selling point to you. There's just not as many attachment points. Like I said, the fabric on the inside, if you're somebody who just doesn't have very high socks or low ankle, that could be an issue or an irritant at some point. I kind of think that's cool, but that's because I wear socks that are high ankle. So definitely it fits. It's very familiar if you're used to the Lone Peak line. I think this is something that's not going to be, you're not going to feel uncomfortable in. This is very similar to how that fits. So the only two things, like I said, the Gator Trap thing, maybe this is too weird for you. You like the laces. I thought this 4-foot foot lock was very cool, but something to note if you're looking at this shoe. I need to put some miles on it though. We'll have to see how it feels on trail days and miles and use, and I will definitely do a follow-up. I will be using this on my AT section hike, so please, I will look forward to that, getting that miles clocked in on this and see how this, one, holds up, but two, comfortable-wise, if this is an option that moving forward I'm going to be going with. Nothing wrong with the Lone Peaks, just wanted something different for this year. This was kind of enticing. I love Ultra shoes, so pretty familiar though to the Lone Peak if that's what shoe you've been using. But mileage will vary for you and how it feels, and everybody's feet are different and all that. It's very subjective. So I will clock some miles on it. If you have any questions, you want to see more or anything about this shoe, let me know. I'm probably going to do a review later at the end of the year on these after I actually get some trail time on them, give you my thoughts. But if you have any questions, though, in the meantime, put them in the comment box below. Thank you for watching.